Hello YouTube, my name is Nero and today some Call of Duty Black Ops 3 The Awakening DLC has finally released for the PlayStation 4. It is February 2nd, therefore it's DLC day. The Awakening DLC has been released. What we're going to be doing here at this video is giving you guys my impressions of the maps so far. This is only going to be covering the 4 multiplayer maps that we got with this DLC because I'm yet to have time to actually experiment at all with the zombies map. I may do videos of that in the future, we're going to have to see, but for this video I would like to kind of give you guys my first impressions. It's almost a review of the 4 multiplayer maps that we got here at the Awakening DLC. These maps, of course, are going to be Skyjacked, which is a remake of Black Ops 2's Hijacked, Gauntlet, Rise, and of course, everybody's favorite, Splash, the water park map. Now, I want to preface this entire video by saying it's very hard to judge how good a map actually is, because we all play differently. A map that I like may not be a map that you guys like, and vice versa. It should also be noted that someone's opinion of a map can be tarnished by whether or not they play well on that map. Are you going to say a map is good if you consistently play poorly on it? Probably not, so just keep that in mind. This is all very subjective. It is my own personal opinion, but I will like to say that I've been doing pretty well on the Awakening DLC maps so far today. Again, I've played for maybe 4 hours or so today. I put about 4 hours of game time into all of these maps, not each individual one, that would be insane, but 4 hours in total. And I can say that I've had my share of good games, bad games, mediocre games. I feel as though I've gotten a pretty good feel for what these maps are about, and hopefully you guys will enjoy my review. First things first, let's talk about Skyjacked. Now, of course, this is the much anticipated remake of Hijacked from Black Ops 2. That was one of the most popular maps of Black Ops 2, and Treyarch wasted little time trying to get a remake of that map here in the Black Ops 3. I will say that this map is a pretty faithful remake of Hijacked. It feels like Hijacked. While I'm walking around, I felt like I was in Hijacked, but obviously all the scenery is different, so it was like really messing with my mind when I initially started playing on this map. I will say that while it is a pretty faithful remake, it feels like Hijacked, it looks like Hijacked, it is going to be a bit different because we have a different movement system here in Black Ops 3. The lines of sight that you're used to seeing and the lines of sight and the engagements you're kind of used to getting into on Hijacked, you're not going to be getting in those as much on Skyjacked because by the very nature that we can jump really high and we can roll and so on and so forth, right? So it's going to be playing a little bit different. It still seems to be like it used to be, where we would kind of like push forward. Our team is on this side of the boat, their team is on that side of the boat. We kind of push forward in this endless struggle of tug of war, and occasionally people would get behind us either by going on the side of the boat or maybe going underground. The same thing kind of happens here in Skyjacked, where it's kind of like that game of tug of war, but you kind of feel as though people are getting behind you a little bit more because we can now run on the side of the ship on the outside there. You can jump down into the underground section. There's a lot of ways around people as compared to trying to directly take them on, in that game of tug of war like I mentioned earlier. So it should be noted that this DLC has just come out. It's day 1 of the DLC. Typically when a DLC comes out, people are running around seemingly aimlessly. They just continuously just run around just doing whatever. So right now it's kind of chaotic. It seems a little bit random, but overall Skyjacked still feels like Hijacked to me, but in the context of we're playing Black Ops 3 now and we're not playing Black Ops 2. We do have the ability to jump really high. We do have the ability to run on walls. We do have these new score streaks, these new weapons, but it feels like a very faithful remake to Hijacked, and I quite enjoyed playing on it my time here today. Now, I should also note that just in the court of public opinion, this map got voted for more than any of the other maps I've played today. Now, out of all the Awakening DLC maps, I played this one the most because for whatever reason, when it showed up in the rotation, that's the one people voted for. They wanted to play on that map. Next up, let's talk about Gauntlet. Now, this was the sleeper map of this DLC for me. Now, when I say something is a sleeper, I'm not trying to say it's a bad map or anything like that. I think people get confused when I call something a sleeper. In the world of fantasy sports, a sleeper is somebody who a lot of people don't think is going to be that great, but you can see that that person is going to be a really good player this season. He's going to come out of nowhere and he's just going to be fantastic and nobody's going to see it coming. He's a sleeper. Gauntlet was that for me. It was the map that I figured was going to be a decent map. I didn't think it was going to be the greatest, but it turns out it's actually a fantastic map, and I really, really enjoy the way that it plays. Now, I was very excited for the aesthetic. I think that's what people were really interested in, was the setting that we were going to be playing in. If you guys don't know, Gauntlet is set at a military training facility that has 3 separate biomes. It's a 3-lane style map like we've seen in a lot of Treyarch maps, but each of these little lanes is kind of like its own biome. So of course we see the forest area, we see the frosty area there in the middle, and then of course you see the rainy city area over there on the other side. So it's a map that has a bunch of different biomes to it, and it actually feels really cool when you're going through all of them. Now, I will say that I spent a lot more time indoors on this map than I kind of anticipated. I thought just by looking at the previews of this map maps and how they're focusing so hard on the fact that there's 3 different biomes here on this. I figured the biomes would play a much bigger role than they actually do, but in reality, they're just a very small portion of the map. There's also a bunch of indoor sections of the map because we are in fact playing in a training facility. It's not just essentially going from forest to snow to city all together. You're going to be going in some buildings here and there as a result of the fact that we're actually playing in a training facility and we're not in some fantasy land where all these biomes are connected to each other. The map itself is very simple to understand. It actually has a lot of interesting lines of sight and a lot of interesting paths for you to take, and it feels overwhelming at first. You're like, oh my goodness, there's so many little twists and turns everywhere, but in reality, it took 1, maybe 2 games for me to understand this map completely. Like, I feel as though I'm an expert at this map already, only playing it, maybe 4 or 5 times so far today. It's one of those maps that you can pick it up on it very simply if you actually just pay attention to where people are spawning, if you pay attention to where you're spawning, you pay attention to where people typically like to go and where people like to set themselves up. It's a very easy map to understand. I think it's one of the reasons why I like it so much. If I had to make a guess as to what size this map is, it's probably more of a medium-sized map, and also has a nice combination of lots of action, but at the same time, not too much action, because there's some maps where you're just constantly being shot at, there's constant engagements all the time, whereas this map's not like that, but it's not to say that there's not enough action. It feels as though it's got that perfect amount of action where you have time to position yourself, you have time to pick your routes, you have time to think about what you're doing, while at the same time, you can still find a lot of people. So overall, I think Gauntlet is a fantastic map. It's one of the better maps of this DLC, and in fact, I would say, even though it's pretty soon to say, I guess, that you can take all this with a grain of salt, but I would say it's one of the better maps in Black Ops 3 in my own personal opinion, but that's only my opinion after playing it maybe 4 or 5 times so far today. So just keep that in mind. Take everything I say today with a grain of salt, because these are just my first impressions of the DLC. Next up, let's talk about Rise. Now, this is my least favorite map of the Awakening DLC, and I went into the DLC kind of predisposed to not like this map, because just from the marketing material that we saw, I saw this was going to be a construction site, a very overused theme in shooter games in general, and I also saw that it was a very kind of like dark and dreary map. It's kind of like set at night, and it just doesn't have a lot of great color like the rest of the maps here in Black Ops 3, and as a result, it's my least favorite map of this DLC. But that's not to say that it plays bad. When I say something's like my least favorite map of this DLC, you think, oh, it's probably a terrible map. It really isn't. It doesn't play bad at all. I actually quite like the way this map plays. I just have to admit that the aesthetic hurts this map more than it helps for me. It's so dark and sad compared to the other maps of this DLC or the other maps of Black Ops 3 in general. Even part of this new update, they actually made it so some of the older maps, some of the original maps of Black Ops 3 are now brighter and more beautiful, and then they put out a map like this, which is so kind of like dark and dreary, and just like, I feel like I'm playing an Infinity Ward game. And I know there's some people out there that love Infinity Ward, but even you guys have to admit, Modern Warfare 3, Ghosts, a lot of those maps, very green, very dark, very brown, not a lot of color to them, right? I hate that aesthetic that Infinity Ward goes to, and that's what I kind of get when I play on this map. The map itself is actually pretty huge. It's the biggest map of the Awakening DLC. If I had to say, if it's, how big would this be in comparison to the rest of the maps of Black Ops 3? It's up there. It's not the biggest map, I don't think, in Black Ops 3, but it's a pretty big map in general. But it also has that strange trait, which is so hard to accomplish when you're designing a map, where a map can be big, but it doesn't feel like it's a giant map. It doesn't feel like you're hiking from one end of the map to the other to try and find yourself an engagement. There's a nice mix of medium to long range firefights on this map, with the majority of your CQB battles happening, of course, inside buildings. There's also an underwater section to this map, which kind of serves as the underground area. Like, there's some maps, and this has been like a trend in Call of Duty for a long time, where maps will sometimes have an underground section, which will allow you to kind of sneakily get from one end of the map to the other and make it so there's just more areas and more ways for you to navigate around the map. This has that, but it's underwater, which is really interesting to me. So if you want to try and flank the opponents, it's actually pretty easy. You just go underwater, then you pop up at a different area, then you can go around them, and you don't just necessarily have to go down some of the very predictable corridors or the very predictable line of sights that this map has. So it's a very interesting map. I'm interested to see what this is going to be like in the future. Again, this is actually the very beginning of the DLC season. This is the first day that this DLC has even been out, and it's only out for one platform, the PlayStation 4. So I'm going to be watching this one. I'm going to be watching it pretty closely, because while I hate the aesthetic of the map, I actually like the way this map plays quite a bit, and maybe I'm a bit biased in that respect. I typically like larger maps, but I'm going to be watching it because I want to see what the community as a whole thinks of this map, because I like the way the map plays, believe it or not. I just don't like the aesthetic. Last but not least, we are going to be talking about Splash, my personal favorite map of this DLC. One of my favorite maps in the history of Call of Duty, even though it's not even one day old yet. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, beautiful, beautiful Splash. Pardon my French, but this map makes me fucking happy. I love playing on this map. I love the color. I love the theme. Everything about this map is happy when I'm running around it. It's so awesome. It's amazing how much color and theme can change a map and how it can make you feel while playing on the map. You could be playing in some dingy, war-torn city like we've seen a bazillion times in Call of Duty, or we could be playing in a bright, beautiful water park. It's amazing how awesome this map is. Now, it plays great. Now, I want to say it plays great right from the get, because I think some people are going to think my opinion is kind of tainted because I just love the way the map looks. No, this map actually plays very well. There's lots of ways around the map. You're constantly diving in and out of pools, which how cool is that? And water slides and all these different things for you to do on this map, while at the same time, it just is a typical 3-lane Call of Duty map at the end of the day. That's exactly what it is. There are 3 lanes. There's a left, there's a middle, there's a right, but there's a lot of cool ways to get around the map as compared to other maps that we've seen in Call of Duty history. You know, instead of taking a cave, which we've seen a bazillion times, we're taking a water slide. You know, instead of going through another cave, which again we've seen a bazillion times, we're going underwater past some pirate treasure, and you know, we're shooting people while we're underwater and stuff. It's just, there's so much cool stuff to do here on this map. All weapons work on this map from my experience so far. Everything from burst rifles to shotguns. You just have to kind of know where to position yourself and know where you're going. And it didn't take me a long time to figure out where I was going on this map. That's kind of the beauty of it. It didn't take me a long time to figure out this is where people typically like to go. This is where a lot of these engagements are going to be happening. If I'm using a submachine gun, this is exactly where I want to be hanging out, because this is going to be an area where I can have a lot of engagements that kind of work well with my submachine gun. Or maybe I'm using a burst rifle, I want to be hanging out towards this area a little bit more, or just I know where to look. Every time I walk into an area, I constantly already have an idea of where the opposing team is going to be. Even if a UAV is not up, it's just, okay, I know that people are typically like to hang out there, they like to hang out there, they like to hang out there. It just, I always know where to look for people. It's one of those maps, again, like Gauntlet, where it didn't take me very long to figure it out at all. I kind of figured out everything my first or maybe second match playing on this map. I knew where people were going to go. I knew how to be successful on this map. And at the same time, while I'm sitting there really enjoying myself, getting lots of kills, getting my score streaks, you know, just enjoying myself, I have this beautiful freaking water park to look at while I'm playing. It is so good, guys. Splash is so good. I made the comparison before, and I think it's a just comparison. I've seen a lot of other people make it as well. Splash reminds us all, or at least most of us, of Grind from Black Ops 2. Now, not to say it plays like Grind, because they are not similar whatsoever in terms of how they play, but it's fun because it's an amazing theme. It's a bright, colorful, vibrant theme. If you guys ever played Grind in Black Ops 2, do some Google searches. Do a Google search, just look at some of the images. Grind was a skate park set in California, and there was, you know, all these vert ramps, and there's all these tunnels and stuff for you to go to, and there's these grinding rails, and just, it was a really cool theme for a Call of Duty map. And as a result, people really liked playing on it because it was bright, it was colorful, it was fun, and it was an enjoyable experience to be on that map. The aesthetic really matters more than I think people give it credit for in video games, and that's one of the reasons why Grind was such a great map. It came out with the first DLC in Black Ops 2 even, and here with the first DLC of Black Ops 3, we get Splash, which is kind of along those same lines. A beautiful looking map that plays really well. It's very unique in its aesthetic, and just it's fun. It's a great map in my own personal opinion. It's my favorite map of this DLC. I thought Skyjacked was going to be my favorite because it's a remake of Hijacked. It is good. It's a great remake of Hijacked, but Splash, no pun intended, blew it out of the water. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys all enjoyed my review of the Awakening DLC. Those are the 4 maps. Once again, we had Splash, Rise, Gauntlet, and of course, everybody's most anticipated map, Skyjacked, the remake of Hijacked from Black Ops 2. I feel as though it's a great DLC. Right now, it's only available on the PlayStation 4. Now, if you guys aren't aware of how this works, PlayStation 4 is going to be getting the DLC 1 month ahead of PC and the Xbox One. So, if you want to get like an estimate of a date as when you can expect this to come out for the Xbox One or the PC, give it early March. Early March is probably when you're going to be seeing this DLC. Somewhere between March 1st and March 7th is probably when we're going to be getting this DLC on those platforms. So just keep your eye out for that, but until then, you can watch all the videos of the people that have PlayStations playing on this and kind of have a little bit of a competitive advantage when this DLC releases for your platform. That's one good thing, I suppose, if you can try and drive any good from an exclusivity deal. But yeah, so just keep that in mind. The DLC itself is going to run you $14.99, just round it up to $15 and do the conversions if you live in a different country. People always want to know at the end of these videos, do I think a DLC is worth it? Do I think this is worth your money? Do I think it is worth $15, which is 1/4 of the the price of the original base game. Now, I will say that I feel as though this is worth $15 to me. Now, this is going to be, of course, applying to different people differently, but for me personally, I feel as though this DLC is pretty great. And this is not to say that I'm just some COD fanboy that always swears by all the DLC. If you guys remember, back in, what was it, Call of Duty Ghosts, I actually made a video boycotting a DLC almost. I made a public service announcement saying, please do not buy this DLC. These maps are awful. You know, everything about this DLC is terrible. It just is not worth your money. Just, I've done that in the past. I'm always pro-consumer. I'm never pro a company. You'll never see me swearing by Call of Duty if something that they're putting out is bad. Just keep that in mind, guys. I'm always pro-consumer. I think people seem to forget that sometimes. They consider me to be a fanboy of the Xbox or a fanboy of Call of Duty. I'm not a fanboy of anything. I'm an adult, believe it or not. I'm 24 years old. I don't hold allegiances to things that are trying to take our money. I try to give you guys the most objective videos and opinions possible, and hopefully that's what I accomplished here with this video. And I do feel as though this DLC is worth $15. I like all the maps. I think that they are good maps. I've heard great things about the zombies experience. Now, I don't know too much about that. I can't say whether or not it's amazing because I haven't played it yet. I just haven't had time. I've been putting in the majority of my time today playing on the multiplayer map so I can make this video. I'm going to be trying to play a little bit of zombies later on tonight and hopefully getting a feel for that. So just from the 4 multiplayer maps, I feel as though they're all pretty good. Now, you can make the argument all you want about whether or not $15 is a good price for 4 maps, one being a remake and a zombies experience. You can talk about that all you want, but at the end of the day, for me personally, I feel as though Call of Duty and gaming in general is one of those mediums where your cost per hour of entertainment is so much lower than other things. You know, you purchase a movie for $15. Like, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, what is $15? You know, $15 is a trip to McDonald's if you have more than one person. You know, $15, what's that going to get you at the movie theater where you get a 2-hour experience and then you're done? You know, just thinking about how much content you actually get to see and how much fun you get to have for $15 on 4 brand new maps plus zombies is typically going to be a pretty good deal if the DLC is good and if the DLC suits you. So don't just take my word for it. Watch other people's videos, watch other people's gameplay, try to get a feel for the maps, and then you guys can make an informed decision as to whether or not the Awakening DLC will be for you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude my video once again. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I hope you guys all found it helpful and informative. Look forward to some more Awakening DLC videos here on my channel in the very near future, including my impressions of Horizon Draha, the zombies experience that I'm yet to play. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And let me know in the comments, what are you guys thinking so far about the Awakening DLC? Now, I know I have a lot of Xbox fans here on my channel, so even though you guys haven't been able to play this yet, let me know just from the videos you guys have been seeing and just from the impressions you've been getting from the community in general, what do you guys think about the maps? And of course, if you guys are playing on the PlayStation 4 and actually have this DLC, let me know, how are you guys digging the maps so far? And if you guys are enjoying them, I'd definitely be interested to hear about that. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Drop me a rating, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.